Welcome to Dear Fans. When Caitlin Clark visited Lagos, Nigeria for a business deal, she stumbled upon a heartbreaking scene: a pregnant woman hawking oranges under the scorching sun, carrying her young son on her back. Her husband had tragically passed away, leaving her to struggle to make ends meet. With Caitlin did next will leave you speechless. Have you ever wondered how a single moment of kindness could change the entire course of someone's life? Imagine walking down a busy street surrounded by the noise of cars, the shouts of street vendors, and the bustling energy of a city. The air is thick with the scent of fried street food, the rhythmic honking of impatient drivers, and the sound of hurried footsteps as people rush to their destinations. Motorbikes weave through traffic and vendors call out to potential customers, their voices blending into the city's unrelenting hum. Is a place full of life, movement, and resilience. And then, amidst all that chaos, you see something that stops you in your track. A sense so heartbreaking it makes you question everything. This is the story of what happened when Caitlin Clark, better known as one of the most inspiring basketball stars of her generation, traveled to Nigeria for a business deal which she witnessed, and what she did next left everyone speechless. Caitlin Clark, a global basketball icon, businesswoman, and philanthropist, was in Lagos, Nigeria, exploring opportunities for investment. Lagos is a city of immense vibrancy and resilience, known for its energy and entrepreneurial spirit. It is home to millions of hardworking people, some striving to build empires, others simply fighting to survive another day. The streets are lined with stalls selling everything from fresh fruits to handcrafted goods, a testament to the city's relentless determination to thrive despite its challenges. As Caitlin's car drove through the streets, something unusual caught her attention. A young woman, visibly pregnant, was walking barefoot on the scorching pavement, balancing a tray of oranges on her head. Her thin frame carried more weight than it her swollen belly pushing forward as she took each careful step. Strapped to her back was a small boy no older than 2, his tiny body drenched in sweat, his bare chest exposed to the brutal sun. His small hands clung to his mother's shoulders, his head resting on her back, too tired to lift it. Caitlin couldn't look away. The sight pulled at her heart. Who was she? What was her story? And why was she out here risking everything? The woman moved with quiet determination, weaving through traffic as she balanced the tray of oranges with practiced skill. Despite the exhaustion that must have weighed on her body, she did not falter. She called out to passing pedestrians, offering them fresh fruit with a voice that carried both strength and desperation. Caitlin felt a wave of emotions crash over her. It wasn't just sympathy, it was admiration. This woman, despite her circumstances, refused to give up. Caitlin asked her driver to stop the car. The driver hesitated. It wasn't safe to stop in the middle of a busy Lagos street, but Caitlin insisted. The moment the car came to a halt, she stepped out, her tall frame instantly attracting attention. People turned their heads, whispering among themselves as they recognized her. A foreigner, an athlete. What was she doing here, stepping out of a luxury car in the middle of the street? The sun bore down relentlessly, the midday heat wrapping around her like a thick blanket. Beads of sweat formed on Caitlin's forehead almost instantly. She could only imagine what it must feel like for the woman who had been standing under this heat all day, carrying both her unborn child and the weight of survival. She approached her. Caitlin's towering frame cast a long shadow over the petite woman. The woman stopped, startled, her eyes flickering between Caitlin and the security guards who had quickly stepped out of the car, keeping a cautious distance. For a moment there was silence. The woman looked unsure, as if waiting for Caitlin to speak first. Caitlin gently asked her name. "My name is," she replied, her voice soft but firm. There was something in her voice, a quiet resilience, a refusal to be pied. She explained that her husband had died in a tragic road accident just a year ago. He had been the Brad Winter, leaving her with no choice but to fend for herself and her young son, with no family to turn to. Had been forced to start hawking oranges on the streets. It was hard, exhausting work, but it was the only way she could make enough money to buy a meal or two each day. Caitlin listened intently, her heart sinking with every word. Can you imagine the strength it takes to carry the weight of survival on your shoulders, all while carrying a new life inside you? I was only one of thousands of women in Lagos who faced similar struggles, and yet she stood here, Not begging, not complaining, just working day after day under the harshest conditions just to keep her son fed. Caitlin swallowed hard. She had seen poverty before. She had visited communities in need, donated to charities, and supported social causes. But this was different. This was personal. This was a mother who refused to give up. She could have easily turned away. She could have climbed back into her air-conditioned car and driven off to her next meeting, telling herself that it wasn't her responsibility. But Caitlin Clark was not that kind of person, and in that moment she knew she had to do something. But then came a moment that would change AA's life forever. Caitlin reached into her pocket, pulled out a stack of cash, and handed her $500. AA eyes widened in disbelief. For a moment, she just stared at the money in Caitlin's hand, as if her mind refused to process what was happening. She hesitated before finally reaching out, her fingers trembling as they brushed against the crisp bills. The moment she realized it was real, tears welled up in her eyes, spilling down her cheeks as she clutched the money tight in her palm. She thanked Caitlin profusely, her voice shaking with emotion. She kept bowing her head in gratitude, whispering words of thanks in both English and her native language. A few onlookers had gathered, murmuring amongst themselves. Some smiled, others simply watched in stunned silence. But Caitlin wasn't done. She wasn't the kind of person who would just hand out money and walk away. She asked AA to come with her to a nearby cafe where they could sit and talk further. She wanted to understand more about her situation, her dreams, and how she could truly make a difference in her life. A hesitated, glancing at her tray of oranges, as if uncertain whether she could afford to take even a few minutes away from her work. But Caitlin gave her a reassuring nod, and for the first time in a long while allowed herself to hope. She adjusted her son on her back, picked up her tray, and followed Caitlin into the cafe. What happened next would leave the entire street buzzing with awe. As they sat down, Caitlin ordered cold drinks for both of them, sensing that unneeded the hydration. The woman took small sips, still looking overwhelmed by everything that had happened in the last few minutes. Caitlin could tell she wasn't used to being the center of attention like this, but she wanted her to feel at ease. She began asking her questions. How much did she need to rent a small shop? What were her dreams? Did she want to continue selling oranges? Or was there something else she aspired to do? Still overwhelmed, took a deep breath before answering. She explained that she had always dreamed of owning a small grocery store. Selling oranges on the streets was not what she had imagined for herself, but it was the only way she knew to make money after her husband's death. If she had a proper shop, she could sell not just oranges, but a variety of fruits, vegetables, and everyday essentials. She believed that with a stable business, she could provide a better life for her son and her unborn child. Caitlin listened intently, nodding as she absorbed every word. She could see the fire and eyes, the determination that had kept her going despite all odds. And then Caitlin smiled. She told AA that she wanted to help, and when Caitlin Clark says she's going to help, she doesn't just offer words, she takes action. She immediately called one of her assistants in Lagos and asked them to find a suitable shop, for she didn't want to wait. She wanted this change to happen as soon as possible. Within hours, they located a small but clean storefront and a bustling part of the city. It wasn't fancy, but it was exactly what ID needed. A place where she could set up her own business and finally step away from the exhausting life of street hawking. Caitlin paid the rent for an entire year up front, but she didn't stop there. She handed an additional $440,000 to stock the shop with goods, her workers, and set up a business that could thrive. The money wasn't just a gift, it was an investment in AA's future. She wanted to give her the resources to succeed, to build something sustainable that would last for years to come. And yet Caitlin still felt there was more
to be done. She
noticed rubbing her belly absent-mindedly, as if trying to soothe the unborn child inside her. She knew that pregnancy alone was difficult, let alone in AA's situation. So Caitlin made another call, this time to ensure that AA would have access to proper prenatal care. She arranged for all her medical bills to be covered until she safely delivered her baby. Can you imagine the shock on AA's face? She had started the day thinking it would be just another day of struggle, just another day under the burning sun, trying to sell enough oranges to buy a meal. And now, within hours, her entire life had changed. How you react if a stranger and international superstar stepped into your life and gave you a lifeline you never thought possible. News of Caitlin's kindness spread like wildfire. People gathered around the shop as it was being set up, eager to see the transformation unfold. The story of the American basketball star who had stopped in the streets of Lagos to change a struggling woman's Life became the talk of the community. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the hope that Caitlin had given to AA, went from being just another struggling hawker to a proud business owner in the span of a few days. The once pregnant woman walking barefoot in the heat now had a future filled with hope, all thanks to one woman's generosity. But Caitlin didn't do it for the cameras. In fact, most of the world wouldn't have known about the story if it weren't for a local journalist who happened to be in the area and shared the story on social media. When asked about her actions later, Caitlin simply said, "I saw someone who needed help, and I had the ability to help." It's that simple. Isn't that a lesson for all of us? How often do we walk past someone in need telling ourselves it's not our responsibility? How many times have we convinced ourselves that our small act of kindness wouldn't make much of a difference? But what if we all did just a little more? Story didn't end there. With her new shop, she was able to send her son to school and provide for her growing family. The shop quickly became a staple in the neighborhood, attracting regular customers who admired her resilience and hard work. Her business thrived, becoming a hub for the community. People came not just for the goods, but for the inspiration she represented. She became more than just a vendor. She became a symbol of perseverance and transformation. Her son, who once clung to her back as she walked the streets in the blazing heat, now had a chance at a better future. He no longer had to sit in the dirt while his mother worked. Instead, he went to school holding tightly to the backpack that I had proudly bought for him with her own earnings. The impact of Caitlin's kindness didn't just change AA's life, it created a ripple effect. Neighbors who had once overlooked AA as just another struggling street vendor now saw her as an example of what was possible. Other women who hawked on the streets began to believe in the possibility of change, seeing AA's transformation as proof that their own situations were not hopeless. And Caitlin, she didn't stop there. After returning to the United States, she continued checking in on A's progress. She ensured that her assistant in Lagos kept an eye on the shop, helping A with any business challenges she faced. Caitlin even made arrangements for financial literacy training so AA could learn how to grow her business sustainably. Months later, when Caitlin received a video message from A, she smiled as she watched. In the video, A stood proudly in front of her shop shelves stocked with fruits, grains, and household essentials. Her son waved at the camera, dressed neatly in his school uniform. Behind them, customers moved in and out of the store, their hands filled with fresh produce. I was no longer just surviving, she was thriving, and all of it started with a simple moment. A moment when Caitlin Clark decided to stop to see someone to care. The story isn't just about Caitlin Clark or AA, it's about the ripple effect of kindness. One act of compassion can change a life, and that life can go on to inspire countless others. So the next time you see someone struggling, remember this story. Remember who had the strength to keep going, and remember Caitlin, who had the heart to stop and help. Together they proved that even in the face of hardship, hope and kindness can prevail. What would you do if you had the power to change someone's life? Would you take the chance? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the good in humanity. If you've watched this far, comment which country you're watching from and leave it in the comment section, because you are the type of person that likes to finish what they started. Like this video and subscribe this channel. Thank you.